Great.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us, Rob. We've kind of been through talking about the office hours at Washington County Democratic's office and grow the vote and things with my campaign. And we're at the point in the conversation where we are ready to talk to you about the things that you have going on and specifically vote common good. If you want to touch on that, I'd love to hear more about that. And yeah, so the floor is yours, and we are your audience.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you for this opportunity. I am Robb Ryerse. I'm running for Congress here in Arkansas's 3rd Congressional District, which includes Benton and Washington counties, Carroll and Madison counties, and Crawford and Sebastian counties. And yeah, and I am running to represent the people of Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley because I think they actually deserve someone who will truly represent them. It's literally the job title, right? Yeah. And I know that many folks don't feel represented. What they feel like is we've got a congressperson who um, ultimately cares most about what his big corporate donors think, ultimately cares most about what the party leadership wants, and ultimately will do whatever Donald Trump says. So, yeah, that's what I'm up to. And,
Oh, Rob, you cut out.
You got muted somehow.
Hang on.
sorry
There
about
we
that.
go. There
Oh,
we
There you
are.
go.
sorry. Man, you figure by now we should be good at Zoom, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but I apologize for that. Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to talk about all sorts of different stuff, whatever you're interested in knowing.
Well, tell me a little bit about Vote Common Good then.
Yeah. Yeah. Vote Common Good got started in 2018, essentially by a group of pastors that, you know, looked at Trump getting elected and, as our executive director says, realized that our DNA was all over this crime scene, right? Like our tribe was responsible for this, with 81% of white evangelicals voting for Donald Trump. So rather than just complain about it on Facebook, we decided to get organized. And and so our operating assumption is that there is 5 to 15% of white evangelicals, white Catholics, white mainline Christian voters who are flippable, which means that there's 85 to 95% that are not flippable. But that 5 to 15%, especially when you think about how religiously motivated voters tend to over-index in in election turnout, can make a huge difference in a close election. And so we got organized, and there's kind of two things that we do. One is voter outreach, where we reach out to voters that are kind of going through a political identity crisis, that are, for whatever reason, are um, considering doing something they've never done before, like vote for a Democrat. And we try to communicate, hey, like, you're not alone. um, there's an on-ramp to political engagement that is not the way the religious right does it. um, and we're not trying to take America back for like liberal Jesus, right? Like, this isn't like a progressive version of the religious right. But we're not trying to get Christian Democrats elected. What we're trying to do is get Christian voters to behave differently than they have in the past, which is, instead of being selfish about their voting, to consider the common good as their voting criteria. Um, so we do a lot of different um, outreach to voters. A lot of news stories, a lot of op-eds, a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, publicity stunts that will earn media. And then on the candidate side, we work with Democratic candidates all over the country. Um, we do some trainings on how to talk about, um, the issues that matter to candidates in a way that will resonate well with religious voters. Again, not pandering in any way, shape, or form, but like we think you can make the case for all of like the progressive democratic issues in a way that will resonate with religiously motivated voters. So we do training, we do coaching on messaging, we do a lot of networking, helping people connect with friendly religious leaders in their districts. We've got candidates for common good, which is like we ask voters to use the common good as their voting criteria. We ask people who are running for office that if they are elected, if they'll use the common good as their governing criteria. It's not a policy platform. It's much more a shared set of values. And we typically we'll have the full spectrum in the Democratic Big Tent as candidates for common good. And Courtney, I know you took that pledge, and we've got candidates, everything from like this in this next round that's about to be announced. We had a candidate for the United States Senate, a sitting congressperson, an incumbent congressperson, and a guy who's running for water commissioner in his town. like
Oh,
the whole range. We've got the whole range. And so it's and our goal, our hope is that every candidate who runs for office becomes a candidate for common good, because that means we're on the right track. And then we do in district events. We travel around the country in a big bus and try to bring voters together and give candidates an opportunity to speak to them. And there's kind of a man bites dog story of, evangelical pastors come to town and urge voters to vote for a Democrat. Like that gets on the news. And so we travel around the country and that, which I don't know if you've ever lived in a tour bus. One year that the bus that we were in, the person who had just immediately before us used that very bus was Weird Al Yankovic. And
oh, no kidding.
seriously, so I'm there is a decent shot that I have slept in the same bunk bed that Weird Al Yankovic has slept in. So, but yeah, so
I met Weird Al Yankovic. He is such a nice man.
yeah, yeah. So that's the work of Vote Common Good, and it's been really interesting. We found we've learned a lot over the years, and have, I think, some real key insights into how to actually flip people who have never voted for Democrats before, and how to give them a pathway to, in a permission structure, to do that.
I think that's so important. Just if you look at the numbers of this local primary, for example, in Washington County, you look at the numbers and you see how close it is when you combine the Democrats with the nonpartisan votes. It's literally between that, it's like 50 votes or something right now between the parties. And so I see what you've done as you've taken your belief system basically and put it into this package that represents a nonpartisan effort that reaches across the aisle. And so I'm seeing what I've done with my strategy as being the same thing with my Grow the Vote effort, being a nonpartisan effort, and saying, let's register these folks, let's educate these folks, and not make it about myself, but make it about Arkansas, right? Make it the country and the good of everybody. And so that's where I'm seeing how we are lining up so strategically. So I'm ready to jump on your bus and you help me plant the seeds.
And I know, Courtney, you're a candidate for common good, which is great. One of the things we talk about with candidates is we talk about candidates being exceptional candidates. And what we mean by that is the kind of candidate that someone would make an exception for, where someone would say, man, I would never vote for a Democrat, but I would vote for Courtney And
Right.
that permission structure where and the key thing with this is realizing the difference, like how people change. Identity change is really hard. It's a slow process. Like, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I have like deeply embedded in me that I am a Cleveland Browns fan. There's very little, if frankly, if at this point they haven't like chased me off, like they can't. Like, it's that identity is so deeply ingrained in me. It's very different, to like even think about anything else. Um, but I will give myself permission to root for a different team in a game, because who I am in my identity is different from my behavior. Being identifying with a party, calling yourself a Democrat or a Republican, that's an identity thing. Uh, Voting is a behavior, and people will change their behavior much more easily than they'll change their identity. So it's giving people a permission structure to do something that keeps their identity intact, but helps them to behave differently. So what I say to people all the time is, I say, listen, I'm not asking you to become a Democrat. I'm asking you to vote for me in this election. And that's the permission structure that they go, okay, I can do that. I give you a shot. And I mean, what people don't realize is, as soon like when the first domino falls, like, more are gonna fall. Like, once your ballot begins to turn a little bit purple, it will only get more purple and then hopefully more blue. Um, like, there's no stopping that. But people don't go from like bright red to deep blue, snap of the fingers.
Right.
We've got to be exceptional candidates that give people permission to do something different than they've ever done. And if we're going to win our races, all three of us that are on the ballot here on the call, if we're going to win our races, we're going to need Republican votes. We're going to need like registered Republicans, or people who identify, as their identity as Republicans. Like, we're going to need those votes. And so we've got to find those people and give them permission to do something different. And again, it's not about pandering. It's not about, I'm not changing anything about my policies. What I'm doing is I'm trying to talk about them and communicate about them in a way that someone goes, oh, well, maybe I could give that a shot.
Right.
Yeah.
So Rob, how would people get involved? Like, how do people help your organization? How do people apply?
Yeah. So if you're running for office, you're a candidate, you can go to candidatesforcommongood.com, and that links right to our Vote Common Good site. And there's a place where you can sign up to be a candidate for Common Good. It's a simple Google form. If people want to follow us, just go to votecommongood.com. If you want to learn about Christian nationalism, the threat of Christian nationalism, frankly, our executive director is like the expert in the country on Christian nationalism. And he's also based in Minneapolis, and we've been real involved with the anti-ICE movement in Indianapolis, and the rallying of clergy to be a part of that. We just finished up an effort where we were teaming with folks to encourage Democratic congresspeople and senators to not attend the National Prayer Breakfast because of its Christian nationalist roots. And we do a lot of immigration work, because if one of the things that we've learned, that if that 5 to 15% that's flippable. Now, I'm not talking about the 85 to 95% that are going to be like chanting "Build the Wall" at church on Sunday, but that 5 to 15% that are flippable, what we found is, if they're out of step with national Republican policy, national Republican leadership, it's going to be on the issue of immigration. That's going to be the issue, because they're going to say, oh, like Jesus actually told me to love my neighbor. Like I'm supposed to welcome the stranger. Like they took all that stuff seriously, right? And so now they're like, and all of this stuff is happening. I'm not okay with that. So we think that that's the key wedge issue to that can make a difference with these kinds of voters.
I had a quick question for you,
Yeah,
Rob. So when you when you started off earlier with the percentage of flippable the demographics, where do you get that number from?
yeah,
And how do you know like the areas of the county to kind of like tackle
yeah, yeah,
um in terms of, voters and stuff?
yeah, yep. Good question. It started as a hunch back when we started. Um, and then we have done two sets of polling of religious voters since then. Um, one right after 2020 and one right after 2024,
Okay.
which has given us kind of some real insights. And then, like Joe Biden actually like did 11% better than in 2020 with religiously
Mhm.
motivated voters than Hillary Clinton had done previously. So like that fell right in the range that we thought, and so yeah. So it's polling and then experience. Now, in terms
Okay.
of like, I mean, we work nationally primarily to flip congressional
Uh-huh.
seats, and so much of the work that we do is it's based on seats that are flippable and the religious makeup of counties, like
Okay.
local, like on a local basis. Um, you know, it's a I mean, here where we live, it's going to be most people you talk to, are going to
Uh-huh.
who go to church, and so not shying away from that, being able to meet that head on, and one of the things that we found is that voters don't need a candidate to be like them. They,
Hmm.
they need the candidate to like them, and like that's what happens so often. Democratic candidates communicate this thing like, oh, Christians, I'm like, especially white Christians, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
they're weirdos, I don't want anything to do with them. Like, I literally had a congresswoman say to me, those evangelicals, they freak me out. Like, okay, and they can tell that you're freaked out by them. So it's a matter of like communicating just like normal human empathy of like, hey, I take an
Uh-huh.
interest in you, I like you, and part of that is like just conversations, and yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah,
Well, and
it's
I think Rob, where you found like religion is the crossover issue or that wedge issue, I'm also approaching it from the environmental being a wedge issue that everyone that lives in Arkansas anyway and cares about the natural state and the natural resources, it's a nonpartisan issue. So I'm with you. Like I'm all about finding these issues that help
yes,
us open up that conversation with people.
right. And I think so. I was at an event in Berryville this week, and I was talking with a conservative voter who was asking me about the Save America Act and whether I would have voted for that. And we were, having a conversation. It was very clear we were disagreeing on policy. We have very different policy approaches. But I said to him, I was like, listen, I think I think we could agree on the values level that what we both want is an election that we can trust. And he was like, yes. I'm like, okay, well, let's start there. That we both want to be able to trust our elections.
Hmm.
Like, okay, and then let instead of building the path from where we disagree, what if we start and build the path forward from where we agree? And I think the great way to do that is much more on the values level than on the policy level. So like, I mean, the environment's a great example of that because you can like conservative Christian voters, conservative uh, traditional voters, they they love the land. They love, they have a sense of
Uh-huh.
God's creation. There's going to be lots of different ways that it'll get phrased, but it's based, I mean, it's just a different way to say the same thing of like, hey, like we're all sharing this space, like, and we want to take the best care of it that we can. Let's start there. And, and I think, if we're so divided as a country, it's really troublesome to me. It's really troublesome. Um, and I say this as a person who's like very strongly held political beliefs. Like, I mean, I don't say this as like some wishy-washy moderate who doesn't know what they believe. Like, I very strongly held political beliefs, but I also have this sense of like, man, we've got to learn to be able to talk to each other again, or we're never going to be able to like move forward. And I think connecting on the values level first is the path forward because we have so many shared values.
Mhm. That's why I
Mhm.
appreciated so much that you have come to our coffee and conversation program. And that's just one way that I'm trying to like
Yeah.
branch out and open up that dialogue through
Yes.
artistic outreach or something that just kind of softens the environment. Bringing your dog with you, I think, is a fun way to do that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
um, I do want to just take a minute to say, like, thank you so much for being here and joining us and sharing your perspective on things. And this to me was so helpful just to hear from you about how it all makes sense and how you're
Yeah.
approaching things.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Well, we've been working on this stuff with Vote Common Good since 2018, and in some ways, it feels like my congressional campaign now is really the chance to test it and see if it works. Uh, so we'll find out. Hopefully, it does. We could be completely wrong.
well,
Thank you for the opportunity. And if people want to find me, it's robforcongress.com. Rob has two B's on it. It's robforcongress.com. You can sign up to be on my email list. You can volunteer. You can always donate if you want to. And we'd love to have people on board because it's going to take all of us working together to make this happen.
Well, and Rob,
Mhm.
I just want to let you know too, with the office being open, we're trying to keep it open, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 2. Give these volunteers something to do. They're ready to go. I mean, they want to help.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you have volunteers at your disposal, and you just call me and let me know what you need, and I can make sure that they have what they need to get that done.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Great.
awesome.
And I'm going to stop by sometime when you're open and drop off some. I don't have yard signs yet because it's way too early for me to have yard
Yeah,
signs. But I do have
Mhm.
some bumper stickers and some, cards that people can hand out. So I'll drop some of those by for people to grab.
awesome.
Thank you again for joining us, and I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of this Sunday afternoon. We've got some sunshine out there, so um, get out there and have a fun conversation with someone about their opportunity to vote early. They've got about 10 days left to do that.
I had a quick question if, Rob has a bit more time. So, I understand like, you know, being genuine as a candidate, really pays dividends. But how do you find that balance? Because, the other, whoever you're running against is going to be, you know, having like different, campaign ads against you on particular topics. So is there like a fine balance of, being genuine in certain topics you have to like kind of focus on, um, uh, during your campaign, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. I mean, my opponent, Steve Womack, I mean, I could probably write for you like what his mailers are going to say. They're going to call me a
Uh-huh.
socialist. There,
Yeah.
there's pictures of me out there with AOC because she and I are friends, and so there's gonna be a mailer with a picture of me and AOC together, and I like it's just like it's almost predictable. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, do that. And I like part of me understands that like politics is like that's part of the game. Like
Yeah.
I'm not I'm wi- like I'm not scared to take a punch from him, and also I'm not scared to
Hmm.
throw a punch because I recognize that that's what we're doing. But I think there's a way we can maintain our humanity in the midst of it. Like
Uh-huh.
Congressman Womack's wife died about a month ago.
Mm.
Um, really suddenly, she had a cancer diagnosis that came on very quickly, and she passed away. And I mean, we didn't throw any punches. Like told my team, like, hey, like we're only positive if we're critical of anybody in the next 3 weeks, and we're going to be critical of Donald Trump. Like
Hmm.
like Congressman Womack is off limits because the guy lost his wife, and like we're not because we're
Uh-huh.
human beings. We're trying like we're not going to be assholes about this. And at the same time, um, like I'm like we're not Pollyanna either. Like this is I've got a friend who says we've got a moral responsibility to win elections. And I take that really seriously. I'm like, I have a moral responsibility to my kids, to the working families in my district, to the immigrant families that live here. Like, I've got a responsibility to the trans kids. I've got to win this thing.
Yeah.
And, and like, if that means that, I like, I am always honest, but doesn't always mean we have to be nice. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Uh-huh.
we're gonna call a spade a spade. We're not gonna be wimpy about it. And so I think it's you got to find that balance, and everybody's different, and like you got to be
Uh-huh.
true to the genuineness is about being true to who you are. I try to crack jokes and be a little bit humorous about it. That's me. Other people approach it different ways. So I think the authenticity is really important. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I agree. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I would add that it's just really important that we're genuine and we're authentic and
mm,
being true to who we are. And that's what I see you doing as a candidate. I see you being true to who you are. And that inspires me to do the same thing. And like you said, it feels very much like a calling, even though I was asked to run. It's like, yes, everything has led up till now. And it's set the stage for me, not just to run, but to win and to be that voice that can then speak for the people in the district. And so it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's all the things, but it does feel very much like a calling.
yeah. I get that.
Well, I feel like too, watching the two of you, the things that you're calling out are things that have been done in the job, like that have harmed our Kansans. Like,
Yeah,
literally, you're saying, look, Courtney, you posted your position on the bill that was sponsored by your opponent, and it was valid. And, it wasn't saying anything about him as a person. It's just, this is what you did with what
yeah,
the job that we hired you to do.
yeah,
And these are the downsides to that. And I would have done it differently. And
yeah,
it's about our Kansans, it's about the citizens, it's about what you can do to actually serve the community.
yeah, yeah,
I'm so impressed with the both of you.
yeah. I'm like, I could talk about this stuff all day. I have a deep commitment to the idea that voters need to be the hero of the campaign story. So many campaigns really center the candidate. They make the candidate the hero of the story, um, when in fact it needs to be voters. And I've got a whole thing on this. There's a great book called Building a Story Brand, which is a marketing book about how, it's for businesses that customers need to be the hero of the story for in marketing. And like you think about all of the great stories that we tell ourselves, from Star Wars to, Karate Kid. I don't know if that's a great story or not, but we go on and on. All the great stories, like, they follow a really similar pattern. That there is a hero who has a problem, who wants something that they can't get because of a villain of some kind is in their way, and the hero meets a trusted guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action. And then if the hero follows the plan, there's success and they get what they want, and there's some kind of transformation that happens in them in the process. And if they don't, then they fail. And candidates shouldn't position themselves as the hero of the story. We ought to position ourselves as the trusted guide. Like, we're not Daniel-san in the Karate Kid movie. We're Mr. Miyagi. Like, we're not Luke Skywalker. We're Yoda. Like, we're the trusted guide who, with authority and empathy, says, "Hey, here's how we can get we help voters get what they want out of all of this." And so, yeah. I got a whole thing on this. This is why, like, don't, like, so when candidates like talk about themselves, or they give a campaign speech, and, like, don't tell me where you went to third grade. Like, it doesn't, like, candidates should only talk about their personal biography in a way that illustrates either authority or empathy, that they can be a trusted guide. Like, don't tell me, don't read me your LinkedIn profile. Don't, like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I could rant on this kind of stuff all day long. But that's it's like, you come back to what voters are after, what they want, where they are. And, like, I mean, there's times where, like, I'll give a little campaign speech or whatever, and I'll sit down and I'll be like, did I mention anything about myself? And I'm like, I probably should say something about myself. But I'm trying to, like, like, something biographical about, like, what I do for work, or, that kind of thing. But I I think we've got to, and maybe I've overcorrected too far. Um, but I think it's really important that when we talk about, like Courtney, the work that you do with STEAM, like, I mean, that is, like, authority to talk about educational issues. Like, you're, like, that. So you talk about that, like, as a way of showing that you have the authority to, to, yeah. Anyways, I could go on and on, but I'll stop.
And it leads as a segue for that conversation. Exactly. Kabir, did that answer your question?
Um, Sorry, I got lost in
I know
train
it
of
was
thought.
it's like two-parted, and
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we touched on it.
Yeah.
On both
Um,
questions.
so just to kind of reiterate, correct me if I'm wrong, like how authority and um, like the different type of leadership style, right? Not putting yourself like in the spotlight, but kind of being that servant style of leadership. You're
Yeah.
there to serve. Um, does that make any sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, and, for me, it's like, the framework I try to think about it is, empathy and authority. And the empathy is, man, I know how this feels. I know why this is scary. I know that why this is difficult. I know why this is an issue for you because, you know, because of my own life experience. And the authority is hopefully here's the work that I've done in the world that,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe like gives me some credibility.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
Well, we'll do this again if that's good with you, Rob. I'd love
I would
to
love,
do it.
yeah, I would love to. Enjoyed it.
I'm excited to see how the primary turns out and celebrate with you. Um,
Well, I'm good.
oh
I'm,
yeah, you're
Yes.
good. We're both golden through November. Yes.
yep, focused on, I mean, I'm excited about the primary. I saw a tweet this morning. It was national, but it was something about how early voting numbers for Democrats were mirroring what they see in presidential elections.
Yes.
Like if turnouts like that for a midterm,
Mhm. Yes.
We
It's
very be
very,
okay.
yes, it's very inspiring. If you
I
really
might be apartment shopping in Washington D.C.
I'm
That would
good.
be a wonderful problem to have, Rob.
Yes. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again for your time and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Okay, we'll see you later. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rob. Appreciate it.
Okay.